Welcome and good afternoon to A Reasonable Conversation. You're tuned in to Nusound Radio 92 FM. My name's Satish and I'm joined here in the studio with Prerna and Vivek. And today we're going to be discussing a topic which is very current and impacting upon our community every week. If you have any comments, if you've got anything you'd like to say, or you want to just join in a reasonable conversation, please feel free to text us. You can text us on 07961 387787 or email us on info@newsoundradio.com, and you can also tweet us now on @newsound92fm. And there's always Facebook. You'll find our webpage under Newsound Radio. So, a reasonable conversation. Every week we're going to be engaging in exploring an idea, exploring a topic, and trying to find a way forward using reason, something that out there seems to be disappearing. Prerna and Vivek, as I said, welcome to the show. And if you'd like to contribute a suggestion?
I think with conversion, it's a very interesting topic because on the surface of it, you think, if it's someone's own choice, they want to convert and they're happy in another religion, it's up to every individual person if they want to convert or not. So on the surface of it, it doesn't sound very controversial, but I think when you dig deeper, there's lots of evidence out there saying that it's not so straightforward, is it?
I think conversion is a funny word, really. We all seem to know what it means, don't we? We all use it and it's in the press an awful lot. What does it make you feel when you hear the word conversion? Do you feel it's a great word? Do you feel it's a bad word? Do you feel it's a good thing? What does it bring out of you when you hear that word conversion?
Yeah, I was going to say that there seems to be something about the word and the way in which it's used that always makes people see it as a negative thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Like Prerna just said, it seems like quite a reasonable thing. You can always change your mind. There's nothing wrong with it. But still, when you talk about conversion, there is something which makes people uncomfortable. If you ask me what I feel about conversion, I'd feel slightly uncomfortable.
So just instinctively, it makes you feel a little cautious, a little wary?
Suspicious, I think.
Suspicious.
It's like, conversion, what happened? Why did you convert?
Okay, but when you think about it, conversion, isn't it just simply one person changing their mind about how they want to live their life and picking a different way of perhaps how to live their life, how to form their relationships? Is it more than that?
Well, I think sometimes it can be. I think, sure, it's okay to change your mind every now and then, but you've got to keep in mind that you can change other people's minds. People's minds are easily influenced, and I think with conversion, sometimes, it's not completely freely done. I think there are incidences in some cases, or at least I've heard of some anyway, where, you hear of stories of forced conversion. And I think forced conversion is what people assume all conversion to be related to, and that's what makes people uncomfortable. Not so much just changing your mind, because obviously there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, so let's just get back to basics for a moment, right? So if you're a Manchester United fan, and my apologies to the Manchester United fans out there, and you change your allegiance, and all of a sudden you decide one day you want to be a Manchester City fan. Is that a conversion?
Yeah, very bad one.
Okay,
yeah, maybe you just changed your mind and thought, actually, I don't want to support, Man United anymore. I want to support someone else. And
right. So, is it just about you then? Because I imagine that if you changed your allegiance from one football club to another, would you lose a lot of friends? Does that have an impact on the change?
Well, I think that might be it. That might be why people feel uncomfortable. Say we're talking about this Man United fan who decided to go traitor.
Okay.
Right? What would the rest of his Man United fan friends feel? It's like you've lost someone in your group. Someone's left the group and joined another group.
Okay, so there's a bit of a community angle to it?
I think so, because I think especially with religion as well, there's a lot of culture that goes with it. And once you kind of change religions, you're deemed to be changing culture. So I think with Man United, instead of singing certain songs or going to a certain pub, you'd be going to a different pub and singing different songs. And
okay, it's funny, we're only 5 minutes into the programme and that word religion has already sort of crept in. Okay, before we jump into that, just play with this idea of moving from one group to another group. We've talked about changing allegiance to a football club up in the north, Scotland, Celtic and Rangers. That's been a passionate divide for so many years. There are families who, in their generation after generation, they stick and adhere to one particular side and support that almost religiously.
What was that word again?
Yeah, it's going to crop up, I feel. Similarly, political allegiances as well. Yeah, so if you are in one particular party and you were to abandon that party in Parliament and cross the floor of the House and join the people on the other side, is that a conversion that's happened?
I think so. And I think it'll always... The reason why people view it as a negative situation and is because it's viewed with suspicion, why have you left us and gone to the other side? Everyone kind of feels sore about one person changing allegiances, whether it's political, whether it's football. It's kind of like we've lost one of our own to someone else. And there's always a bit of,
We've lost one of our own. Yeah, that's a great thought.
it comes with lots of negative feelings, I think, conversion, because it makes you think, why were we so bad that you had to go to the other side or support someone else?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Maybe it does point out to this sense of insecurity. You know, what's wrong with us? Why? And I think the group divide, the group and the individual, the difference is important here, because when that conversion takes place, say the Manchester United fan goes to Manchester City, why? Has the Manchester City fans taken him into their team just to steal a Manchester United fan? Have they done it for their own good, for their own reasons? Or has the Manchester United fan decided by himself that this is what's good for him? So it's a matter of, is it good for the individual, or is someone else thinking about some other good?
Okay. Well, just for those listeners who are just joining in, I just want to make it crystal clear that we're not actually talking about Manchester United or Manchester City, and I'm sure they're both wonderful clubs with fantastic performance. The topic today is conversion. What does it mean? Is it good for us? Is it bad for us? Is it something that should be supported? And if you do have any thoughts on that, please text in 07961 387787. Email us, info@nusoundradio.com, and again, tweet us at nusound92fm.
We've actually just received a text message. He said, we convert for our benefit and gain, and that's Manna from Ilford.
Okay,
so we convert for our benefit and gain.
All right, fine. So it's about the person, isn't it? We've been talking about community and different groups. Manna, thank you so much for that. So our focus was very much on what does the group that you're leaving feel. And Manna's now introduced another idea, which is about a person wanting perhaps to convert for their own benefit. And if that's the case, if somebody joins Manchester United and they feel great in Manchester United, does that make it a good thing?
Well, I think, as Manna said, if you do change because, you want to be happier and you benefit from it, then good on you. If you're feeling better as a person for converting or changing allegiances or supporting someone else, then that's a great thing. As long as the person themselves are happy and they're not doing anyone any harm, then the group that they've left should maybe just deal with it. And
I think you're completely right. Everyone can change their mind whenever they want. Right?
So once upon a time, people used to gather together, I guess, for shared ideas, for a sense of community, a sense of protection, maybe a sense of safety as well, safety in numbers. And we've all heard that saying, birds of a feather flock together. But are we saying that it's fine for a person to just change allegiance in any dimension of their life, and that should be accepted without any problems?
I think at the end of the day, it's always going to be their own individual choice. And if they decide that path is better for them, then who is everyone else to judge? Because everyone's different and they're going through different things. I think it's only when, someone's influencing them and there's ulterior motives at play, then it's a bit questionable, because it's not the person's own free will. They're being manipulated or... But
then the question comes of when, where do you draw the line?
Right, so if somebody knocks on your door and says, hi, I'm from the Liberal Democrats and I'd like you to change your allegiance and vote for us, and then they explain to you what the benefits are and perhaps how they abandoned their promises on tuition fees, but no, let's not go there. And they explain to you their particular perspective and their case and what they think is right and wrong and how they think the world should change. And maybe they convince you to shift your vote from your traditional family's vote. You've always voted for one of the other parties. That's a change, that's a shift, isn't it? So, is that a conversion that should just be ignored, or everyone should be happy with it, or what do you think? Is there something more in there?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, if it was only one Liberal Democrat, say coming around and giving you some ideas, leaving you on your own to think about it, do your own research and come to your own informed decision, then yeah, sure, that seems fine, right? But I can imagine that if you're in a different environment, say there were 10 Liberal Democrats, they kind of surrounded you, ambushed you, bombarded you with arguments, and you couldn't come up with anything else, and you had to give an answer there and then. That'd be different. Obviously, that's not going to happen.
Okay, Vivek.
but I think there's different degrees of influence.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you're vulnerable and there's a situation where you could be easily persuaded because of the situation you're in and your background, and if you are faced with 10 people and you're all by yourself, then I think, it opens you up to vulnerability and being easily swayed.
Okay. Well, we've got text messages coming in. I'd just like to share with you one other number. If you want to go on air and actually contribute live, the studio number is 0208 472 9292. That's 0208 472 9292.
We're just going to be taking a short commercial break, but see you on the other side. Welcome back to a reasonable conversation on Nusound Radio 92 FM. Today's topic is conversion, and if you want to go on air, our studio number is 0208 472 9292. And if you'd like to text in, our text line is 07961 387 787. I'm Prerna, and I'm in the studio with Satish and Vivek.
And good afternoon. We've had some incredible messages already coming through, but before we leap into those, we were just talking about being surrounded by some liberal Democrats trying to convince you to change your allegiance and perhaps convert to a different party. Just playing with that idea. There doesn't seem to be the feeling of unpleasantness to that, though. We talked about when you say the word conversion, all of a sudden, it creates an emotional response. But when you think about the scenario we've just talked about, that emotional response isn't there. So there's obviously something else in the dynamics of conversion rather than just shifting allegiance from one group to another group.
I think it's difficult.
Am I right in that?
I think so. I mean, we've just had a text from Shobna said you always find that vulnerable members of the community have always been converted through force during history of mankind. So it isn't just an individual choice that you wake up one day thinking, oh, I'm going to join the Liberal Democrats, or I'm going to change allegiances or change religion. It's always the vulnerable members of society that are kind of maybe manipulated somehow into changing the way they think and changing the way they believe.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think sometimes there's also the thought that if you're changing your own mind, why didn't you change your mind earlier? You know, what is it about meeting certain people or talking to certain people that's made you change your mind at that moment? And so there's always the feeling that, sure, people are being converted because of someone else as opposed to it being their own decision. Okay,
so Shobanaji's point about being vulnerable and then being susceptible to perhaps somebody else's suggestions, that introduces the notion of community again, doesn't it? Are we saying that a vulnerable person perhaps doesn't feel so close to their community and that's what makes them vulnerable?
I think so, because they're more susceptible to being, I don't know, wanting acceptance from another community. And if another community's there telling them to join them, they'll be more easily swayed into going into that community if they're not already accepted in the community they belong to.
Okay. So conversion could actually be more than just changing your mind about something that makes more sense. It could be more about feeling included, or, you know, it's maybe more of an emotional thing as well sometimes. You know, looking for belonging somewhere.
Okay, but we're trying to search for what it is that makes us uncomfortable when you hear the word conversion. I mean, in Shobnaji's example, if you've got somebody who's vulnerable and they're feeling perhaps not as much part of the community as other people are in that community, is there something wrong in them being approached and them joining a community where they feel they're getting something they weren't beforehand?
There seems to be something slightly wrong with people giving you something that you might need if you're vulnerable, but slipping something else in, which you didn't necessarily agree to, right?
Slipping something.
Yeah, it's not part of the agreement, right? Okay. So you're going, you want to feel like you're part of a group. Sure, you can do that, but without having to sign up.
Okay, so if the Man City supporter comes to a Man United supporter and says, look, we'll give you a couple of free T-shirts and here's some free tickets to the next match, if you change your allegiance, that doesn't seem to be quite right. Is that what we're saying?
I think so.
Yeah, if someone offered me T-shirts and tickets, I'd take the T-shirts and tickets and, you know, not feel obliged to sign up to any, you know...
All right, so is it the motive then? Is it the existence of possibly an ulterior motive which makes us feel a bit wary? That this friendship might be a false friendship, it might be a forced friendship?